everyone, and welcome back. Today we are going to be experimenting with blue-black artifacts. I already talked about in a lot of my videos, and if you look at my channel at all, you know that I think that kind of mono black or black decks in general are going to be kind of the future when we move into rotation. Unless Bloomborough obviously has something to say about that, where it might print some really strong cards for other colors, and maybe not so much for black, but we dropped the white. So I've been playing Esper. Azorius is kind of the default de facto way that people have been playing Synthesizer because there's so many strong artifacts to play in the white category, like mana rocks and then playing the 5-mana board wipe and things like that. But I wanted to try just playing blue black and doing something a little bit spicy with Phyrexian Fleshgorger, which we already tried doing in Esper, and Arcane Proxy. And this gets a lot easier with the mana rotating to not necessarily play Esper, but using Arcane Proxy kind of as a way to have a Synthesizer in play, cast this for its prototype cost, making a construct, and then recasting something like a Binding Negotiation, where we look at our opponent's hand and make a discard. So if we cast this on turn 2, Proxy on turn 3, we can play this. Even if we don't have a Synthesizer, it's a pretty good way to kind of double duress our opponent, or I guess Binding Negotiation our opponent, make them discard. Or if we're in a creature matchup and I kind of cut down a thing, I play a crewmate, I start looking, and then I Arcane Proxy, bring back another cut down and kind of remove another creature. It's very, very cool. Also, Arcane Proxy kind of fell really in love when it came out. Everybody was about it, and then it kind of fell off for a while. So we're going to try to give it another go here and see how well we can get it to perform in this kind of deck here. But other than that, we are mainly a Simulacrum Synthesizer deck. This card, if you don't know it in Standard, I kind of don't know how unless you're kind of new, which is obviously a possibility. But when it enters the battlefield, we scry 2, a good ability, not quite why we're playing it. Whenever another artifact with mana value 3 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, we make a construct token that gets a 1/1 for every single artifact we control. Now, in this variation over the other ones, we are a little bit lower on the amount of artifacts it can activate. This is also deceiving. These say 7 on it. Realistically, they slide in over here. We're most likely never going to cast these for the 7-mana side. We definitely can with using a card like Mightstone and Weakstone. But this is more or less what the curve looks like. And here are all of our 3-mana artifacts, are higher that we can use to trigger the Synthesizer. But it is also a little bit misleading with 3 steps ahead being able to copy anything. And there's a lot of fun stuff that we can do with 3 steps ahead in this deck. With the World Walker Helm, the thing that World Walker Helm does is we can spend 2 mana, create a token that's a copy of a target artifact token we already control. So with 3 steps ahead, what it does is we create a token that's a copy of a target artifact or creature we control. So if we actually have a situation where we have this and we cast this and say we copy a Synthesizer and say we have a World Walker Helm, we can start tapping this for 2 mana and making additional copies of Synthesizer and producing a massive army very, very quickly. Or we can do other things where, say, we've used it to copy a Phyrexian Fleshgorger, which is a 3/3 lifelinker, really good against those aggro matchups, and say we, instead of countering a Play with Fire or something, so what if we just make a copy of this? Well, now if we have the World Walker Helm, we can start spending 2 mana to make a 3/3 Menace lifelinking Fleshgorger over and over and over and over again every single turn. And if we find a Synthesizer in there, now these are re-entering the battlefield off this token being made because it keeps the mana value. And now Synthesizer is making token, and we are overwhelming our opponents very, very quickly. Outside of that, we're just going to go ahead and hop into the games, try to let the deck explain how it plays itself a little bit. But I hope you all enjoy, and if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing, and let's just head out there and game. Interesting hand. I think I can keep though. Played 25 lands, so we're likely to draw an additional one. Potentially not like the highest thing of all time. I don't know why I didn't play the swamp. Sure, I guess I'll take a damage here. Why not? It's, you know, it's just in my bones, dude. I gotta take the damage on turn 1. I'm gonna remove their creature, you know. What else am I gonna do? No Thalia there, interesting. I'll play this, not able to really hold up anything. I'm gonna go ahead and play our crewmate here. Get it down. They draw a card on turn 2. Interesting. Not really in their forte to do that. We find a Synthesizer immediately. Crewmate showing its value at least in game 1. Orzhov. Duress. Yeah. You can get my Synthesizer. That's a snap decision for sure. Well, I could hold up 3 steps ahead, but I think I'm just going to get the kind of hard creature to deal with down. Then attack. Start working this down and then hold up these 3 steps ahead. That's how I get my board wiped immediately here. Hopeless Nightmare, make me discard. The Volt's got to go, I think, here. I need this extra blue for the 3 steps ahead. Tiny Bones joins up. Okay, well. 3 steps ahead doesn't really do anything unless I have the card, I guess. Ooh, good one. Arcane Proxy being a pretty solid pickup here. Combat attack for 5. Gain our life back. Make sure Hopeless Nightmare doesn't really do anything to affect us all that bad. And then I have Cut Down available. Tithing Blade comes in. I'll just let the crewmate go. I don't really care about the blade that much. This one, much rather counter a thing that they might do now. With this, do I go ahead and make a copy of this? I think so. I don't think go for the third and stuff like that and Cut Down aren't able to really do anything about these cards, so I go for it. Attack. Down to 7 my opponent goes. I have Go for the Throat for like a Braids, a Shieldred, so on and so forth. Not really worried about a whole lot. Hostile Investigator happens. We remove it now. Or do we? I can remove it with Tempo by just playing the Arcane Proxy and bringing the Go for the Throat back. Sure, they'll get a clue token here, but I'm not that opposed to it comparatively. Let that go. Sure. Synthesizer, great draw. But these also have Menace, I guess. For sure. Attack. Play Synthesizer, a card I don't think my opponent can beat. I'm also at 29, by the way. Might Stone, Weak Stone is a fine draw, but just doesn't work here. So both those to the bottom. And then if they don't make me discard, Arcane Proxy comes in, Go for a Throat, it's just Hostile Investigator. Especially if they can't deal with the board. My creature still had Menace.
Those who get in my way
You could have a way to flicker the blade, but at the end of the day, you know, gotta work this down somehow.
Off you go.
And if they have a way to flicker the blade, that means I don't have to discard. And again, the Menace comes through here. Alright, my opponent goes first. I have removal on turn 2. I have like a good fill back up if I get to that point. I have a Synthesizer on turn 3. Sure. On a red it is. Play land, pass. We'll play the Vault so we can kind of minimize our damage if needed. Having this Go for the Throat is going to be great. Will they plot a Slick Shot here? No, they just play it to hit me for 1. That is fine. Here's the Vault. In my turn right away. This doesn't really do me much here. This is kind of the matchup where the crewmate's a little bit like adds 1 to a little bit of the slowness that our deck already struggles from time to time. And Kamano. So it's 3 either way, but the flyer is definitely more of an issue here. So we pop it first. Also, Slick Shot gets significantly better than the Codebreaker in terms of like the amount of prowess it's able to pump out. Arcane Proxy. Okay, so we take 1 turn to Synthesizer here and just hope we're not dead. Go for the Throat, number 2 plus land. I'm going to have Arcane Proxy enter, hit Go for the Throat, shoot their thing down, and then also make a construct here. So finding the extra Go for the Throat is not necessarily going to help me as much as maybe the land would. But do I want another Go for the Throat following that turn? I think that's fine. Especially in this matchup, as long as we can kind of keep their creatures off the board, I feel pretty good in our game plan. There's a Swift Spear, sure. What's the verdict here, boss? Ancestral Anger. And on a red gets so much value off Ancestral Anger. Monster Shriek's there, okay. I take a big hit here. I'm down to 3. And that's like the annoying part about this matchup is like, look how much value they got on 1 unhindered turn because of Ancestral Anger. So I play this. Synthesizer comes in. I'm most likely just dead to whatever's in their hand. Get the Trampler off the board. I think like overall our game plan is solid. I just think we come up short here. I don't feel like there was a whole lot of wasted. Mate, you didn't have to wait for all the triggers to happen, dude. Just play with fire me. But it is what it is. We go first. We can kind of decide what we want to do based on what maybe our opponent reveals to us after turn 1. So we'll keep. Reef will come in. Dark Slick will come in on 2. Maybe we play Crewmate looking kind of for our mainstay card. And I think that's fine because I'd much rather look at their hand on the following turn. Alright, I missed, but at least I put 4 lands on the bottom of my library. That's pretty dope. Wasn't really looking for more of those right now. I also didn't play my Dark Slick Shore, so almost getting punished there, which is pretty gross. Still going to pop this and go for it. No more lines should be fired off to kind of conceal their hand, but also like stop me from doing this, but they choose not to. Unions, not a big deal. Sunfall is kind of annoying. Get lost is whatever. Realistically, Sunfall is also kind of whatever. Get lost is there to exist. The deuce is kind of 2 draws in 1. These are kind of whatever. I think I could play around the interaction, to be honest. I think I just get rid of the deuce. The deuce is 2 draws. And I prefer them not to have 2 extra draws here. And they don't get to draw on this turn either. They play land. Sure. We hit a 3 steps ahead, which is nice. Yeah, let's go to combat and I attack here. First, we attack. We hit. We do. But hold up is 3 steps ahead, or do I play this Phyrexian Flesh Gorger? I think I like playing Flesh Gorger here. Just force them. We know they don't have a counter spell. Potentially, they had to draw one, obviously. We're getting this creature down, kind of forcing their hand whenever it comes to the Sunfall turn, maybe. They might rely on these unions to keep their life pretty high just to begin with, and then try to go for the Sunfall, and we'll 3 steps ahead it. Now, this obviously could be a Wandering Emperor as well. No? Alright, down a little bit more. Again, I'm not going to interact with this union. Sure, they gain 5 here, or they draw and then gain 6. Like, it is what it is. But there's a really 4 mana red. So, as large as our construct stuff get, I don't really have to worry about it too much. Sure. Go to my turn. Surveil here. They don't have a demo field or anything like that. Crewmate's probably just fine enough. Just because it can dig 4 extra cards. To look for that Synthesizer. We hit again. We pass. Very clearly holding up this counterspell. Try and interact with like the Sunfall if we can. Another land from our opponent. Another pass from our opponent. Sure. How about back? Hit again. I'm 13. It's picking up pace here. Crewmate resolves. Ice Stone, Weak Stone times 3 in my hand. I guess I'll pass. Deuce is fine. Not that opposed to the deuce. Sure. Like, I'm not going to stop that card over anything else. There's Sunfall. No land drop here, huh? Okay, wait the Sunfall. I remove it. I got a lot of damage on board now. If no land drop, I hope you didn't have a no more lives, because that's kind of tough if you did. Honestly, did I just bring up the land? Yeah. Okay, they concede. Sure. All right, we go first here. I think this is kind of like a hand idealistically that we're looking for. So we'll keep. Obviously, I'll have cut down kind of turned off on turn 1 here. I think that's perfectly fine to make sure I have my blue mana. At least a permanent mainstay of blue mana. Obviously, Merrick's makes it for 1 turn, but we'd like to have it kind of permanently for our crewmate here. They do nothing. I could just Binding Negotiation, and I'm pretty cool with that. And then hold up double removal next turn. Or maybe I just do it in the opposite order, right? I just let them play their creature, I remove their creature, and then I remove a card from their hand, and then have like the cut down held up. Obviously, crewmate would be a pretty solid play here. Shock. So much worse than play with fire. It's crazy how much that scry gives you value in these games where it's shock over play with fire. Obviously, we'll eventually have to pivot. They do nothing here. Okay, they give me nothing. and then I'll take it. Like, that's fine with me. I'll take a look at your hand. I don't have a second blue for 3 steps ahead. I get it temporarily, if you recall. Let's take a look. You wanted to do nothing, so let's play the game of doing nothing. Then next turn, because of the way my mana works, I can play this Mirix. Use my blue to play my crewmate. Wow. Witch Stalker Frenzy is a entirely dead card in their hand, so I'll take the Lightning Strike away. Weird to respond with the Lightning Strike, I guess. You know, like I wasn't really prepared for that. But we know if it's just land, play Swift Spear, maybe go to combat. We can fire off the cut down, at least fire it off on their end step to force them. If it's an Ancestral Anger, oh, this is even better. The Witch Stalker Frenzy is not available. Kamano's kind of sitting there being a little bit lackluster. Maybe that's not quite the word for it, but here we'll activate this for a blue. Go ahead and play our crewmate. Look, we find a proxy. Proxy being actually incredibly good here, I think. Even though World Walker Helm's actually really nice, but I'm going to take the proxy. I should have taken the helm because proxy is 2 blue mana and I do not have 2 blue mana. Ah, man, I just messed up with the Mirix. I made my brain think I had the blue mana, but I just don't. Tough. Either way, if I do rip a land, I can play the Mightstone Weakstone and then I can just hard cast this for 7 next turn. Sure. I rip a blue because I'm a luck sack, chat. Don't let anybody ever tell you otherwise. Mightstone Weakstone. I'll take this as a chance to draw 2. Only real fear is, like, again, going kind of shields down here with Kamano flipping and a draw. I know how good Ancestral Anger and the Monstrous Rage plus Witch Stalker can be potentially. But with only 1 creature attacking, Witch Stalker gets a lot more awkward, per se. I mean, I'm throwing the block regardless of what they do. I don't really care. Ooh, nothing. Okay. Ooh. Fine. They draw a land, giving me all the time in the world. Gonna have to figure something out. We play Synthesizer, we scry 2, and then I play the River. And then because this doesn't have Prowess, I'm going to play the Arcane Proxy. Getting cut down back, removing the Kamano. You could also argue that I take the binding and take the card, but then they would just cast it. So we just cut down the creature. Have a good time. All right, we go first. Very cool. Got a hand that we kind of like here, so we'll keep. I definitely enjoy this hand. This might be a decently strong one. Who knows? You never know, Chad. We could rip 2 more Dark Slick Shores in a row. We want to lead off with it. Sometimes I like to play an island just to kind of disguise what we're doing on turn 1, but there's not really a point. Yeah, see, chat? Just like that. Look. Maybe Thalia's going to come in, which shuts off my Go for the Throat, so I'm going to go ahead and try to get my value while I can, and Phyrexian Fleshgorger seems pretty good whenever I see a white land on turn 1. But this is kind of the thing where I just talked about playing the island. If they play a blue land in their control, it's going to feel a lot worse. They could still be control. It's still a possibility. Will they play Thalia here? Thalia makes my Synthesizer come off turn slow. Like that are kind of annoying. But it is what it is. Second land, do what? Alright, as soon as I clicked off my screen, my opponent made a play, but we were going straight into Synthesizer here. Braided Net's pretty cool. I like Braided Net. I also like the land drop here, but I think Braided Net can go. I think I have way too much interaction. I'm just going to take the land drop and call it a day. Then I'll hold this 2-1 back. Not really something that they would like to Brutal Cathar, for example, because then I cut down the Brutal Cathar and then I get this back and then get another trigger, but sometimes not really helpable. You're going to have to try to close the game before this Synthesizer pops off. They already know about the Fleshgorger, which is annoying for them. Incredibly so, honestly, because it's a life gainer, has that ward protection, and then it also makes a construct. Evangelius is a cool card. Wait, they attack. My crewmate's slamming a block, and it's not particularly close. A little part of me here. I know this is good. I understand that that's good. A little part of me just wants to 3 steps ahead, copy this synthesizer. I think that's my plan. This could be a greedy plan, but it is my plan nevertheless. They'll still make a construct, but then when I play this Flesh Gorger next turn, I'm making 2 tokens a turn, so I don't fall into that kind of situation where they're like able to play a couple of Brutal Cathars in a row. You could argue that I'm supposed to counter this, but again, I think I'm going to make a construct and things so large that I don't think it matters. And I think they think the window's open, so they're going to go for it, which I'm going to take 1 here. And I'm still going to answer the token, so it's not like it's a big deal. And then this is an artifact. Go for the third available. I'll take this because it's still an artifact, like I said. Then this is going to jump in front of here. Just barely getting to trade it right now, but we're about to accelerate this game plan tenfold here. Let's play the Flesh Gorger. Let's go ahead and make these massive constructs. Then I just passed. Now I have my wall built. Now I'll go for the throat. We'll pop the Vanguard, and then I get a lot of blocks. They could activate Recruitment Officer and try to keep themselves in the game. But it's just going to get worse and worse as this game progresses for them, as long as I can continue to play artifacts. Obviously, there's a good chance that I miss to an extent, but Grand Metatech should be able to get me out of it. Kind of one of the reasons I was looking to play this card, because I can then draw off my blue creatures. And I can turn Flesh Gorger blue, which then allows me to gain life, but I pay life to do it or whatever. But here comes Brutal Cathar. Brutal Cathar enters. Brutal Cathar targets. Probably taking out, I imagine, one of the constructs. Could be the Flesh Gorger too. But Flesh Gorger is a awkward one, that's for sure. Because if they take out Flesh Gorger, it does re-enter back on its big buff side. So, what do we see our opponent do here? A bat attack. I get a free block on it. This bat actually is worse for them, because I can do this. Now I gain more life than they did damage. Now I pop this. Call that all good. And like I said, I'll just play this Myrix down now. Make sure I make a blue off it. Then cast this guy. Make a lot here. And then I will pay 1 blue. I guess it's a draw and discard, so I'm not like a huge fan of it. I will attack with this though. I go for the throat, goes away. I think this card is a way for me. Why did I not attack my 9/9s? Whatever. I don't know why I didn't attack my 9/9s, chat. I'm just being a toxic gamer. But I guess like holding them back makes it pretty impossible for me to die, I guess. But the reason I took this over go for the throat is because I get to, at minimum, get 2 cards and then make like another artifact. But that artifact doesn't have a mana cost, so my synthesizers don't care. But I get to avoid that potential option of just drawing like 5 straight lands in a row. Even if there is 5 lands, well, I took all 5 of them off the top of my library, so I'm less likely to kind of hit that oddball number. But we're both at 20. We both have now 5 creatures in play. 6 creatures. I have 5. He has 6. Kind of unfair. They can attack with the bat, but again, it even loses more value here. Stop attacking with the bat. What are we doing? My Flesh Gorger has lifelink. I gain more life by doing this than you do damage. Stop attacking with the bat. Please. Alright, but this card blows this game open. -5/-5. Get Adeline out of here. Make 2 more constructs. And then ship in the team entirely. There's no holding back here. 2 of these make contact. It's lethal, so they have to double block. like at least block 2 of these, and then 11, 15, 16, 17. Maybe not quite enough to get lethal there, but with this and 2 extra creatures, me being at 27 because of Flesh Gorger, it feels pretty hard for me to lose this game with 2 cards in my opponent's hand. They block 3. Okay. And the more they block, the less likely they have the odds of winning. Yep. Really relying on these Brutal Cathars to potentially flip and do some shenanigans, but I casted a spell, so it's not going to nighttime. And now they play land Sunfall me. Wouldn't that be crazy, chat? I would lose it. I don't think I'd be able to contain myself. I think I'd put a hole right there in that wall. This one. If they were all a creature deck and then they untap and Sunfold me, I think that's reasonable, but our opponent's deciding on what they would like to do. Ossification. Yes. That all we got? Thalia. The card that would have been a lot more devastating on turn 2 when we talked about our Synthesizer, but I mean, you're in the same boat, if not worse. Okay, it just got worse. Just gonna shut off all doubts that they're able to do anything. We'll still have to pay 1 here. This one, as you can tell, Thalia still makes me pay 1. I do that, and then 1 of these, like, it'll be super lethal here now. All right, we go first. I like this hand. This hand's fine. The mana's a little awkward, and that's kind of the theme of playing multicolored decks. It only feels so awkward, even more awkward now than it did, because we're so used to kind of these slow lands that it just feels bad whenever we have hands like this. I'm not going to be able to draw that blue-black slow land. I can't think what it. I want to say Dark Pathway, but that's not right. There is Elusive Ooter. Do I go ahead and I interact with my opponent? I can play Blast Zone on 1, but I think I just hold Blast Zone and make it my last land. Let's go ahead and take their best card. Like a Slick Shot. Monstrous Rage is annoying. Water Wings. What is that? 2 until end of turn. Target creature control has base power and toughness of 4/4 and gains flying and hexproof. That's a protection spell, sure. But like, is not just taking Slick Shot here better? I know I get Monstrous Raged and Play with Fire next turn, but I think just getting this off the board is fine. Because then after that turn, like, what do they have going? And plus, this makes my Blast Zone better. Hexproof doesn't get around Blast Zone, but I still have to make some more land drops here. This Vault plus this. Maybe draw a fast land here. That'd be nice. So I take a total of 8 this turn. Play with Fire plus like the Otter here. Going down to 12. Pretty much a no-go hand here. And this has Hexproof now when they untap here, which is kind of annoying. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. Let's go ahead and play this into this, which kind of weirdly brick walls them in a sense. No second black mana, not a Merrick's in sight, so Flesh Gorger not going to be great. They do it now. Flying, I forgot about the flying part. That's tough. They concede? I don't have a second black mana. Alright, sure. I don't know. Alright, chat. Here we are. Here's the deck list, and here's what we got going on. I actually kind of like it. I know it's a little bit weird, and if I say one more time, I'm going to break my microphone. But here we are. We have Arcane Proxy to kind of come in, and the Flesh Gorger to come in, and these are secretly 3-drops. So it does look like, if you look at this curve, this looks like a really awful curve. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you kind of look at it at first. You're like, man, really, how are we triggering the Synthesizer? Like, these are too slow, maybe. We don't have kind of the often artifacts that we would have on the top end to play with the synthesizer. Like, how are we making the constructs and how are we getting ahead? Well, I've talked about this card before, kind of acting as an additional free activation in order to make extra constructs. Because once we make one, the World Walker Helm is able to just keep producing copies of that, and I like that a lot. But the thing is, again, these are just sneaky creatures. They are 3 mana through and through in this deck. It does get a little bit harder not being able to play. If you're going to play this now and you don't want to craft anything else, maybe you already have them, definitely throw the shipwreck marshes in to ensure that you kind of have double blue and double black on that turn 3 whenever you need it, and it's very crucial to have it and not having like necessarily tap lands. I do want to play a little bit more surveil lands, I think, even over like this Restless Reef. I think surveil lands might actually do us a little bit better, even if I go like a 2-2 split. When I surveilled and kind of get to throw a land away, because we are a little bit high on lands, you could argue in this deck, because it is majority 3-drop dependent, with a couple of times being able to cast these for their high mana cost, but most likely never really a option, because Synthesizer should already win by then, hopefully. But our highest mana cost being 5, and we fit into like a so-so category. But outside of that, I kind of liked our plan. I don't know why I haven't really tried proxy before, especially in Azorius. But I think with black cards like Go for the Throat, Cut Down, and I do think like today is a good example of a reason like why I like to play Shoot the Sheriff and Long Goodbye, as we were against another artifact deck. And if we had a Long Goodbye, we had a better option with that Arcane Proxy kind of play, being able to actually remove some things. And Go for the Throat is obviously dead against my deck and including theirs as well. But I think Crewmate kind of impressed. I don't think I want more than 3. I know like it's pretty good to have on 2, but it's also not that bad to draw late in the game, because it does kind of act as like the Thran Spider of the deck. Now, Thran Spider, you can argue maybe you just want to play it over this card and you just kind of want to stay with like a little bit lower of a curve in here. I definitely could see that. But I kind of like getting this down early and actually making an effort on turn 2 while also making like a fine blocker. It's not the best blocker of all time, but it does have that 2 power, which is important. It can trade off some of the small creatures that like the Prowess decks play, or it can kind of reach up a little bit and get kind of those 2 toughness creatures if need be. The like kind of X1 creatures, as we see, are the 1-2 creatures, or like the X2 creatures that we'll see sometimes. But it was nice. The amount of times I played it and just was able to find a Synthesizer or an Arcane Proxy or a Flesh Gorger was just so nice, in order to make sure I'm hitting extra spells and cards throughout our turns, and just kind of acted as like a look at top 4, put the best one in our hand. We did whiff once, which was sad, but other than that, we are on the removal, and with Arcane Proxy, you kind of go ahead and you double up these. I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you can target this with Arcane Proxy, and then you can pay the spree cost. Never came up, but that if it does work that way, we might need to evaluate some of the other spree cards with it. I do know in the past, when you were able to cast this card for free, it got to ignore the fact that like you cast 1, but then you paid the spree cost, so you didn't get to like do all these modes for free. It would be 1 mana plus like an additional 7, or it'd be 0 mana for the cost and then 7 to activate all the abilities. But unsure on that. It could work. I'm not going to give you a definitive yes or no without knowing, obviously. Let me know in the comments if it does. Be nice, please. Well, other than that, like if it does work, it opens up a lot of opportunities to play this and then spend like 3 mana instead of 4 to copy something like a Synthesizer, which is really cool, or like a Flesh Gorger or another Arcane Proxy. Now, obviously, Proxy wants to be like cast in order to do its ability, but if we have a weird situation where we just have a Proxy and we need to make 2 blockers and we've already used our 3 steps ahead, we could play this, put this on a stack, and if we have that extra 3 mana and nothing really to do with it, we can make another copy, or we can just spend maybe 2 to draw, if this works the way we might think it does. Outside of that, I do think Braided Net was like fine. I don't necessarily know if I need it with the additional Arcane Proxy in here. I wanted it as maybe an extra Synthesizer. We might be able to find a better card to fit in here other than this. I often found this to be kind of the slowest one. Maybe add the 4th one of these and kind of do this scenario, because this does act as a copy of Synthesizer a lot of the times, or in certain situations I've actually had this copy the World Waker Helm, because if we've already have a token in play, sure, Synthesizer can make more tokens if we're just casting artifacts. But if we kind of run low on cards, which some of our decks are capable of doing, especially this one here, because we don't have a ton of draw, copying the Helm is actually better, because then we can just keep activating it every turn and then making more and more copies of everything else. Also, if 3 steps ahead copies any of these cards, like an Arcane Proxy or a Flesh Gorger, we can actually use the Helm to make a copy of them as well. Same with kind of anything else. If we have Mightstone, Weakstone, a copy of it with 3 steps ahead, and then we can sacrifice the original one, keeping the token copy, and then make a copy of that token, and then we can kind of do Mightstone, Weakstone activations over and over again. With that said, maybe I add another World Waker Helm. Pretty cool. But the last final card to kind of talk about why I put it in here is Intrude to Mind. Obviously, we don't get access to Memory Deluge, which would probably be a better card in this slot. The other card that acts like Dig Through Time that gets cheaper with the artifacts that we control is Rotating, so we can't play it. So I'm going to play this, kind of just try it. It does make an artifact creature with flying if they take whatever, but sometimes our piles can be devastating with it, where we find a Synthesizer and maybe like a Proxy and a Flesh Gorger, split the piles, and then they have to give us awkward things, maybe some land sprinkled in there. And doing it on their end step is pretty good. Outside of that, I hope you all enjoy. That's it for today. I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.